Hi folks, I'm Miss Erin from C.C. Mellor Memorial Library here for today's middle grade moment, where we're going to be talking about 3 books that are great for 9 to 12-year-old readers that are all either recently turned into movies or have movies that are going to be released over the summer. So let's get started. Let's talk about some books that are going to be adapted into movies. The first one that I wanted to tell you about is called The Call of the Wild by Jack London. So this is not a new book. This book originally came out in 1903. So it is the story of a dog named Buck. And so you get the entire book from Buck's point of view. Now Buck is a dog. He's part Saint Bernard, he's part shepherd, and he was kidnapped from the continental US and shipped off to Alaska as part of the Klondike Gold Rush, which happened in the 1890s. So he is sent off to be like a sled dog and help out the men who are panning for gold, looking for gold in Alaska. And so this is an adventure book. This is a book full of peril and survival in the wild. And Buck has to decide how much he wants to be tame, how much he wants to exist with the people, even the people that he really loves, the gold rush, the men who went out for the gold rush that he becomes really attached to. He has to decide how much he wants to stay with them and how much he wants to obey the call of the wild that tells him he should be out in the woods and in the wilderness, hunting with the wolves and existing without humans. So this book obviously has been around for a while, and it has a number of different editions that it's available in on Hoopla. You can listen to the audiobook, you can check out one of the illustrated editions, or you can check out even one of the abridgments. So when a book is abridged or adapted, that means that it's not the original words that the author wrote. It has been changed by a different author to either make the language easier to read or make it good for a younger audience, or sometimes to clean up words that we wouldn't use anymore. Things that we would find offensive today. So if you want to read one of the adaptations or abridgments, you can, but this book was originally, when it was originally published, it was really considered good for young readers. So if you're up for trying the original 1903 version, there are several, including this one, that has illustrations to kind of help you along with the text. Now, I haven't seen the movie that just came out, but that might be something that you would want to seek out too after you have read the book. So the next book that I want to tell you about that's going to be turned into a movie, right now it's scheduled to be released in August. I hope that will still be true. This one is called The One and Only Ivan. Now this one is also from an animal's point of view, but it's a little bit less adventure and survival in the wilderness, because even though Ivan is a wild animal, Ivan is a gorilla. He lives in a mall. He lives in a place called the Big Top Mall with Stella the elephant and a stray dog named Bob. And he really doesn't remember his life before the mall. He hasn't always lived there though. And Stella the elephant spends some time telling him about other places. She doesn't remember the wild, but she does remember being in the circus. And she's heard about places called zoos where, you know, it's still people taking care of the animals, but they really think a lot more about the places that would be good for animals to live. And so Ivan has to get his memory back. He has to remember what his life was like before, and he has to decide if the Big Top Mall is really the best place for him to be, or if he would rather be somewhere else. So this book, even though it's also told by an animal, it's a lot different. This one is definitely a moving story, but it also has some sad parts. So If you're not up for some sad right now, I absolutely understand. But if you are up for some sad, this is a really good book. It's available on Hoopla as an audiobook, which was the way that I read it. I listened to the audio, and the reader is really, really good. It also won the Newbery Award a few years back. This book was published in 2012, so it probably won in 2013. And it's absolutely worth checking out. And it will be a movie this summer, so look for that as well. Now, the third book that I wanted to tell you about is called Artemis Fowl. And this movie is coming out. It has been in the works for a long time, but this movie is coming out very soon on the Disney Plus streaming service. And it is a little bit more realistic and yet also more fantastical than the ones we've been talking about. So all of the books we've talked about so far have been about animals who live in human worlds, and even though the animals can talk or we can understand what they're thinking, the books themselves describe situations that sound much more similar to what we would understand as real life, either now or in the past. This one is about fairyland. And it's about a fairyland that has kind of gone underground because they don't like the mud people, the humans. They call us mud people. But there's a boy, a 12-year-old genius, a criminal mastermind named Artemis Fowl, who discovers that fairyland exists. And he decides he is going to get them to do what he wants. So he kidnaps a fairy, and he holds her for ransom and asks for the fairies to give him gold in order to be able to get her back. But these aren't fairies the way that you would think of, like ladies in pretty dresses floating around with wings. These are a highly specialized, highly skilled, almost a military operation. So the fairy he's kidnapped is actually Captain Holly Short of the Leprechaun unit. And she's not gonna go down without a fight. So this book is action-packed. It's also an adventure, and it is full of really kind of darkly humorous lines. Like, there's a lot of funny banter back and forth among a lot of the fairies. And we really get everything from their point of view. They tell us what's going on with Artemis Fowl, but we don't really hear what his motivations are until pretty late in the book. We don't know why he would do something like this, other than just greed and wanting money. So you'll have to read the book to find out why he wants that and what happens. But I would recommend it. I really hope this movie is good because the book is such an action-packed adventure. It feels like it would make a great action movie or heist movie where somebody's trying to steal something and somebody else is trying to steal it back. The book is really a fun read. This one is also the first in a series, so there's a lot of books in the series, and Hoopla not only has the books, it also has the adaptations. They took the books and turned them into comics and graphic novels, so it has a bunch of the graphic novels as well. So you can definitely check those out. So this week, because we're talking about books that have been turned into movies, I thought I would set a challenge for you to think about either with a book that you've read recently or a movie you've watched, think about how you would give it a review. Now, you could write a review. You don't have to write it, though. You could also deliver a review by taking a video of yourself. Maybe you've watched people give reviews of books or movies on YouTube, so you may have seen somebody give a video review before. But you can also just give a review on the phone to somebody. Like next time you talk to your grandma, maybe you tell her all about the movie you just saw. But just think about what you would look for in a review. So you might think about things that you liked in the movie, or things, if you didn't like it, things that you disliked. Now do keep in mind, if you're going to say a lot of things that you thought were bad in the movie or book, that you don't want to go all down. You also want to say some things that you thought worked or were good or that you liked. You can talk about how the book or movie made you feel. Like when I was talking about The One and Only Ivan, I told you that it's a kind of a sad book. It made me feel sad. And that's something that's good to know. Sometimes people are looking for that, and sometimes people want to avoid something that makes them feel sad. Or sometimes people really want something that makes them sit on the edge of their seat and get really excited and nervous and feel the suspense. And sometimes people don't like that. So those are all good things to include in your review. Another thing you might want to include in your review is what you would want a friend to know before they saw the movie or read the book. Are they going to need to have a box of tissues next to them in case they start crying in the middle of the movie? Are they going to need to make sure that they bring a sweatshirt that they can hide behind for the scary parts? I don't know. You might have to decide what kinds of things that you wish you had known ahead of time, or things that you think a friend might want to know going into it. So, if you have a review of a movie or a book you'd like to share with me, I'd love to see it. Otherwise, go forth, share them with your friends, share them with your families, tell people what you think of things. Make a review. And join me next week for another middle grade moment. Until next Thursday, I hope you have a wonderful week. See you later. Bye.